I have great pleasure in introducing you to Dr. Aloknath Dey. Dr. Dey is the Corporate Vice President and the Chief Technology Officer of Samsung Research Institute based in Bangalore. Very interesting background. He is an alumnus of IIT Kharagpur. He is also an alumnus of Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and a PhD from McGill University in Canada. Dr. Dey has worked extensively and very intensively on the frontier areas of technology, and this includes Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, amongst others. We will really get a good glimpse of what his organization is doing, what Samsung does as far as IP goes in this brief conversation. Dr. Dey represents a company, Samsung, which is a leader in innovations and IP, that too in frontier technologies. The largest IP filings in India has been by Samsung. So has been Samsung's performance all over the world. So with this, let me start my conversation with Dr. Dey.
Thank you, Professor Damodaran, for your kind introductions, and I'm also privileged to be here talking to you.
Thank you, Dr. Dey. Let me ask you a very basic point about the organization that you represent in Bangalore, which is a very important constituent of Samsung, the Samsung Research Institute. You are the Chief Technology Officer, and we are told that it is a great outfit which looks at innovation, IPRs, and cutting-edge research. What do you think has been the central focus of your organization, which has enabled you to work in these areas?
So first of all, I must say that Samsung, in general, globally, the innovation is in its DNA. When I look into Samsung, it's not just one company; it's a conglomerate of 20+ company. It's a group company,
Yes.
from electronics to constructions to even theme park in Korea that you can see. So this whole gamut of things that is covered. 20% of country's GDP, of South Korea's GDP, is Samsung.
Oh, okay.
And then if I look into Samsung Electronics, where I belong to, also have from semiconductor to electronics components to wireless systems. So we are looking into the whole space of consumer and enterprise to a great extent. Now coming to India's center, we are 8,000 people in R&D between Noida Center and Bangalore. Our Noida Center is focused on feature phones, entry-level smartphones. They are very close to the factory, so they closely work with them. And our factory is producing 2/3 of the phones that you see in India.
Oh.
So they are quite hand in glove working with the factory. The Bangalore Center is looking into some of the future looking products, and our mandate is flagship contributions globally, and also mid-tier product line that we want to have ownerships. And then third thing is more anything that is India specific, can we take it forward? So as a center in Bangalore, in this cutting edge things that we are looking into communications, 5G and beyond, and a lot of contributions in that. Globally, 25% of the patent in 5G is from Samsung, and
really?
25% of that is from Bangalore lab.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's great news for us.
And then similarly look into multimedia, vision intelligence. We look into intelligence in a broad way, like natural language processing, IoT as an area, and then some of the services. Like Samsung is known for its hardware products, but what we are positioning ourselves for future is how to work through software-defined gadgets, and then services alongside. So this is where is a bit of transformations that we are carrying forward.
Oh, that's a very interesting intersection that you have been talking to me about. I was thinking about the IPR policy. Why is Samsung so popular, and particularly your research institute, among the IP circles? Why is it considered to be very IP savvy? When did this thing happen?
Like, the intellectual property, in my opinion, is a part of that whole journey, right? When you build a product, you should have, if you are designing something, if you are part of the project, it's a component, it's an intellectual property that your people have it. And if you have not captured, you missed a point. Yeah. So the way I see, I joined in 2011, and when I took charge and built the CTO office for the first time in any other country outside Korea.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
So then we looked into this aspect, and I was very surprised that we have multiple classes of patents, and I'll talk about that. Okay. But one thing that I saw is there is things happening, but we can do it better. So I kind of studied, and I saw that we have to have different mechanisms. For example, open ideations.
Okay.
So we kind of promote inside a lot of open ideations, meaning you can be in one business unit, but you can have an idea in any other product. How do you capture that? So we built a system internally, globally. We have a system that anybody working in any one area but having an idea for another product can launch it and can capture that idea. So that's an open ideation.
So that's part of your institute.
It's part of my institute, yes, and also it's globally it got institutionalized.
It's a global ethos, yeah?
Right?
Of
it's
Samsung,
there, like Samsung. So we make sure that our people are part of that journey.
Okay.
So that is one. So that's a divergence. Have as many ideas as possible. Then we also look into a little bit of convergence, and that's where we brought in some kind of thematic ideation.
Oh, okay.
What it means is, in a year, I should have a focus from time to time. For example, mobile printer convergence.
Okay.
Can I have any ideas around this?
Exactly.
So it's not an open ideation, but I have a time, 3 weeks. Anybody from anywhere, mobile printer convergence can throw that idea.
Okay.
Payment. We launched Samsung Pay in India recently, and
really?
14 countries. It's there in our device. But before launching, we thought, why don't we try out and see who has what kind of ideas, what kind of applications that we can have, and we did that. So these are thematic ideations. And the third category that we look into, it's not just for patent, but the spirit of building innovations is an intrapreneurship.
Okay.
So we call it Creative Lab. And in that, what we do is, we recently got almost 200 ideas. Then we filtered them out. About 80 people presented to a jury in different days. And then we shortlisted 10. And we had a TED Talk style presentations.
Okay.
And then we selected 2 of them. And they are having all the freedom, like as if startup companies. And any ideas, any amount of investments, they can carry forward their ideas. Okay. So these are some variety of innovation style that we kind of embedded in our process, and hopefully that is producing the
Very interesting. You mentioned about different classes of patents, which is a very important way of looking at patents by your company. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So fundamentally, if you look into it, there are 2 things that come into play. One is technical complexity. You have been given a problem, you are trying to give a solution, how difficult it is it easy for others to do? We talk about obvious and non-obvious, but you have to go even beyond non-obvious, right? So element of that
complexity. The height of the inventive step.
Exactly, height of the inventive step. And the second thing is your business impact.
Okay.
Industry is running business. At the end of it, whether it is innovations, patent, product, it's all for the market. People should appreciate, we should have our cut of the revenues from there. So what's the business impact? So if you look into these 2 dimensions, you can have 4 coordinates, right? Yeah. So obviously low doesn't matter, so we don't take care.
Okay.
But so we have these 3 classes. That's one is obviously technical complexity is high, as well as business impact is high. The second is at least one of them is high. And third is, maybe you are ahead of time, maybe it is meaningful for your local market, so file it, and over a year time you can decide whether to take it to the next level. But it needs to be protected. So this is how we look into these 3 classes. Now interestingly, I must say that 2012, we did not have the highest category patent in India.
Oh, okay.
We did not have. And I took a challenge and said, why not? And it's known that Indians do well outside India, but we thought, let's start from here. So it was a difficult journey because always 0 to 1 is difficult than maybe 1 to infinity, as everybody talks about. So what we did is a collective knowledge. We brought people together, and they might have done in their earlier companies and things like that. In this company we have not done, but people have done somewhere
elsewhere, yeah.
So put together, make a team, and then cross that bridge.
Okay.
And first year itself, I got 10 of them, from 0 to 10.
So how did you get them, basically? From where did you get them?
So it's all obviously from our product that we are working, the ideas in communications, in multimedia, and wherever we are strong at. We looked into where we are strong, because when you are starting afresh, you can't work on your weakness. You have to work on your strength.
That's true. That's
so we picked up the best people, we picked up the best area, and then give them time, and collectively we decided that we have to cross this bridge.
Okay.
So that's how we got the first one.
So did you put them up in the same physical place, or it is all virtually done?
No, it's, I mean, we are all in the same building, so that way it's not so much, but it's a fixed time and bringing the minds together. But then what happened is subsequently, we kind of each year we looked into what new and how can I grow. And so second thing we realized is that those who are doing well, let's nurture them a bit more.
Oh, okay.
So that we can get more output. So I moved from 10 to 34 in the next year.
Oh.
And so this
And
way,
all this was filed in India?
All this is global A1.
Global.
This is PCT.
Okay.
India, obviously, we file around 300 to 400 every year.
Which is again PCT? Which is again taken over as PCTA?
Yes, exactly.
From your center?
Yes, that's right.
Now that brings me to a very interesting question, because we talked a lot about how you approach different classes of IP, and then you had a very interesting perspective of trying to balance technical with business. This perspective is something which is not very evident elsewhere, you know. So what is your approach when it comes to quality of a patent? How do you adjudge the quality of a patent, and how do you see that it is only the quality patents that get filed?
Yeah, so as I said, those three different classes, that defines partly the quality, because if you have the good problem solutions and you have the business impact, then basically that is the topmost class. But then what we also do is in our journey, how we are different maybe, I'm not sure whether unique, but definitely different, is that we look into two ways. One is people, they are creating intellectual property, they are part of the project. We have to do our knowledge management, which means even if the project ends and people leaves my organization, what stays with the organization as an asset. And this gives me a picture that every project, I must not finish it off. I must not have a closure till I have this intellectual property that is possible to capture. So that's one journey of it. The other journey is the patent to product mapping. That we are focused on.
Which is very critical. Yeah.
Exactly. So we think that this patent is there, but it's for what? Where will it go? Because at the end, I'm selling products and there are competitive solutions. So it is quite possible. So we do both. One is a compliance check, that if our product are getting launched, am I complying with all the patents that are around? So that is one check that we do. We call it FTO kind of arrangement. But we also look into how can I do differently? And combinations of ideas, because there is communication, there is multimedia, there is synergy between two. Can I create something unique into the whole journey? So it comes sometimes from an engine coming out, and this engine can create many use cases. So that's one way of looking into patents. The other things that comes is from the field, there is a voice of customers that's coming. Can I convert some of them into a nice, interesting features? He's raising a practical problem, and it's we could possibly solve very uniquely. So we look into both of these when we talk about patent to product mapping. One is customer VOCs, second is an engine, a framework that we have built, how many use cases we can build around them.
Now, this customer feedback that you are talking about for product improvement, how far is the Samsung Research Institute involved in that? Is it something that comes from a marketing department and then you filter it and try to retune your product? Or is it something that you do yourself?
No, so we are very well integrated in our Gurgaon office is actually a Southwest Asia headquarter.
Okay.
So they have all the sales marketing people.
Right.
And we have 2 factories, one in Noida, one in Chennai, Dadri, and then 2 R&D in Noida and in Bangalore. So we all work in unison. And effectively from the field, from the sales marketing team, we get a VOC, we have the systems. Our people are also involved, but we are an R&D organization. So collections of that is by the sales team, but filtering it out, what can be converted, what is the easy problem to solve, like, fixing it for tomorrow is one thing. But if there is something inherent and very uniquely it is coming up, then we can convert that into a feature.
And that is your special role as a research institute.
Yes.
That's very interesting. That is very interesting for the reason that a lot of companies have this problem of translating a lot of commercial knowledge and commercial inputs into R&D-able products.
Yes.
That you are able to achieve through this method.
I think, we are putting our effort to do that. One example I can give, for example, everybody was doing this fingerprint, biometric authentication. Exactly. And that time even Samsung globally, we did not have a commercial product on iris.
Iris, yeah.
So suddenly I saw that Aadhaar had already kind of captured iris.
Yeah, iris was captured.
And we did not have an integrated iris product. There are, discrete products, which is you can USB plug in and do it.
Right.
While enrollment, it's perfectly fine. But when you're talking about people got enrolled and you want to launch services, then you need an integrated product. So I thought, this is a cutting edge technology, iris processing. And then on the other hand, the unique UIDAI as a center that has captured way back, why can't we merge these two, marry these two?
Okay.
So we created an integrated iris tablet, and it's one of the best selling tablets.
It is working very well.
And we have the patents associated. So
all those patents are PCTs.
So what
India and PCT.
Yeah, so what we do as Indians, what we decided as an organization, that we file first in India, irrespective of the value. If you have decided as a company to file a patent, and if it's originated from India, being the first inventor who is Indian, then we file in India. Some exceptions, but
so by nationality, if
this is
all
first.
The inventors,
This is first.
Yeah.
Then we get some time and we go and file PCT. PCT is US, Korea. These 2 countries are very dominant for us, but then in Europe. And we do about 300 PCT per year, outside, other than India. I'm talking not India, but beyond that. Then our global company also, Samsung, they do it globally, and we're in the top 2 in the global patenting.
I know.
And then they also have started filing in India because the market is very ripe. So even our other centers have started filing in India.
Oh, that's a very great barometer of the economy, right? The Indian economy.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And the market seasoning, and when you talk to these, and some of them in those cases, our people have been co-inventors, may not be always the first inventor. So this is the full combination that we are trying to harness to file patents.
This is quite interesting, because I never thought that India will emerge as a hub for filing of patents. We always thought that India was something which would get into the patents space much later. But you are saying that already it is at work. The market is a very strong driving force.
Market and talent. So we are combinations of
so combination of market and talent
gives you the both, right? We being here and trying to do advanced research, because for Samsung R&D Institute in Bangalore, we have taken this mandate of research to market. So this is a philosophical R&D shift that we make, because we are here for 22 years. So when we reached to 17, 18 years, we thought, what's beyond 20 years of our existence? And we started working. So we said, you know, development, the middle part of development, we are doing well. And that's what we are recognized for, commercialization of products. But then what I added is that you have to do one more thing. Do this well, you have the credibility with global, but alternate HQ kind of concept that we brought in, what he said is everybody has to do one more thing. Either you do research as a front end taking to the development, or you do a development but with an advanced framework like Tizen, for example.
Tizen
is a OS for IoT,
right.
But can you do a good framework, not just, you know, writing the programs for applications? So that's a second. So you have to do an advanced development, or you have developed something, take it to market, understanding it well. For example, Samsung Pay, as I was mentioning, you know, this is launched in multiple countries, but when you come to India, you have to tie up with Axis Bank, with ICICI, with RBI, two-factor authentication, solve all those problems and make it very interesting. And yesterday we were visiting some retail shops, and when you ask them, you know, why people buy Samsung phones, I mean, one of the answers was Samsung Pay. And we are very happy to see that something
that is a new product, very brand new product.
So this is kind of our typical
approach to the issues. Other than patents, what are the other IPRs that you are focused on? Semiconductor layout protection is there. You have trade secrets, which is extremely important, given the fact that Samsung is a semiconductor-based company. Now, there are two things that I want to ask you, one after the other. One is the role of semiconductor layout. The second is how trade secrets are important, because not everything is disclosed, and in the semiconductor segment. And these are the two issues that I was always wondering what is happening. And the third, which is a subsidiary issue of the second, which I did not flag earlier, is that when I asked you about inventive step. Now, inventive step, you have very rigorous standards. But in semiconductor industry, they say that the patents that are filed world over, there is a problem of thickets, patent thickets, clustering of a lot of patents, and obviously of almost very close resemblance, you know. So that means somewhere in semiconductor industry, the trend has been that the inventive step is a little bit compromised. Whereas from your point of view, inventive step is very critical for the quality of the patent. So how do you see all this? First, the complexity of the semiconductor layout. The second is the trade secrets which go with that. And the third is this thicket problem, which you are normally, the semiconductor industry is associated. And how is it that Samsung has tried to move away from that?
It's an interesting question, but you know, globally we address all of those.
Okay.
But in India, primarily we are focusing on the patents.
Okay.
We have a bit of the trademarks and
trade secrets,
kind of it. But we believe in patenting more because, you know, it is diverging. In a sense, it is promoting innovations, right? So, in very nutshells, we are kind of focusing on the patent aspect of it, and bringing the innovations through the intellectual property.
Okay. So the perspective is different. That is what you are trying to say.
Yes. We have semiconductor activities also here. About 1,000 people are working, but they are also into the embedded software and associated areas.
Yeah.
There are chipset designs, but you know, we didn't have such a big issue of the, as you talked about, thickets of, you know, the.
And that's a global trend.
That's
what I meant was
trend.
a global, which is not there in India
Yeah,
as far as you.
Yeah. So we have not been encountering that, and maybe over time we'll see it.
You will be seeing that. The other issue that I was thinking about is big companies have patent policies. Big companies, conglomerates, and have patent policies. Now, does your outfit, that is a Samsung Research Institute, have a patent policy, or are you complying with some kind of a policy regime? If so, what is the essence of that policy?
No, I think there are policies to execute, but we don't have a very strong policy. We have a philosophy.
It's not laid down anywhere.
Not laid down. It's more of a philosophy.
So open-ended.
As I said, the intellectual property is part of, once you have created, it should be there.
Right.
What we try to do, I also said that patent to product mapping. No. That's very, very important. What we do is also targeted innovations. The thematic ideations that we talked about. I have a specific problem. Can you provide a solutions in that? And I can give an interesting examples. One point there was this washing machine that we were building for India markets. But the typical problem is our shirt collar gets dirty and then you have to go somewhere, wash it and then come and dip.
Yeah.
So we thought, why not put a tray there itself with the faucet and water, and you don't need to go anywhere and you can dip it.
Okay.
I'm glad to say that this is one of the highest selling products.
Yeah, it is.
And it's a reverse engineered, reverse innovations from India to other countries.
So it has come from India. I thought it was a great product. It came from somewhere.
No, we started and now it's in every country. So we did many things like that. This Iris tablet that I talked about, Tizen phones, this kind of washing machine, some of the fridge variants. All these are in our Jugaad innovations categories, you may like to call it.
But they are deeply inventive.
They are sophisticated.
And deeply inventive.
Deeply inventive. And at the same time, then we have taken it forward to other countries.
Oh, that's very interesting.
So this targeted innovations we look into.
So that is your philosophy, first philosophy.
That's first philosophy. And the second philosophy is clustering of patents.
Okay.
Even if it has happened over time by different groups, different people, now today I am focused on, what's my vision intelligence. I want to do an AR. I want to do an VR. Something of that topic that is come and I want to convert into a feature. What are my patents? Maybe it has been done by XYZ in UWV countries, but can I bring them, put them together and then build a great solution? So drive towards commercialization, even if it has not happened in the first go by the inventor, we subsequently put an effort to take that into that direction.
Oh, okay.
So that's a philosophy. Can I commercialize? Yes. What I have protected, can I commercialize?
So
what I have thought, have I captured it? What I have captured, can I take it and commercialize it for the benefit of people?
So these are the two tenets of your patent policy, which does not exist, but it is there in your minds.
Yes, it's more of a philosophy.
So it is not
paradigm.
It is not a patent policy in your view need not be written down. It is always ingrained in the minds of the people who are running the company. That brings me to another question. How well do you think your employees are tuned to the issue of IP and innovations?
So this is, what we do is first time any new joinees that come, we assume that they may be knowing, they may not be knowing. We inculcate an awareness program to start with, and we handhold them so that they can become first-time inventors. I especially focus on first-time inventors because there are seasoned professionals who will invent on their own, right? They know the tricks, they know the magic of doing it. But then how do I bring the other people? Because if we have to do it as institutionalized approach, then you cannot rely on few people.
Okay.
So I make sure one set of training happens for people that are coming on board. The second things that I try to do is, people try to solve, they try to file, but their ideas are not crossing the threshold. They're just there but not there. And they get frustrated, but I can't afford them to be frustrated.
So what do you do?
So I do a special approach for them, that why are they failing, and some successful case studies, those who have been there, we put them as mentor so that they can cross over that threshold. I'm not saying they will do the highest class of patent, but let them do a nice one. Let them gain that confidence that they can do tomorrow. So this is a second. How do you take people and
lift them up?
Lift them up.
Yeah.
Those who are putting effort sincerely.
So all this automatically is linked to your quest for quality patents and quality IPRs in
That's
general.
true, and at the same time institutionalize. Because
institutionalize
we
it
believe if you seed it today, it will reap the benefit tomorrow. So whether I'm there or not, but the organization,
Right.
these people in their journey, they will do.
Completely institutionalize the process of IP and innovations.
Yes. And the third category is, you know, who are doing, but maybe they are doing the mid-level. How do they do the highest level?
Okay.
So we do these three kinds of cluster training
Okay.
to make sure, you know, that we get benefit, people enjoy their stay, and
Okay.
whatever they are thinking is converted into something meaningful.
And they also feel a sense of empowerment doing IP related innovations and seeing that there are rewards coming to them.
Yes,
Isn't
there
it?
are obviously this successful, the success leads to some kind of inner recognition, but we also have the financial recognitions of all the people once you reach.
Monetary
once you
rewards?
File, yes.
Okay.
Once you file the patent, once it is
So-
granted, you get certain
Okay.
amounts. And
So
they are
when
quite
you are
competitive.
filing a patent, the inventor and the assignee, these are different things. The inventors will be those employees who worked on it, the
Yes.
team that worked on it, and the assignee will be the company.
Sure.
right?
So
The-
that's well established.
That is
There
well-
no
you follow the
debate in
rule
that.
without-
Yes. But anybody that has been in the inventions, we also try to figure it out who has contributed how much. So there is a shared percentage
Okay.
of that.
Okay. It's divided and,
It's divided not equally, but by the mutual discussions
Right.
who has done how much.
Right.
So accordingly, the financial reward
Okay.
also
Is
happens.
also brought into the system. The other issue that I thought was important was when we are talking of these filings, a sense of incentivization and all that which is happening. Generally in R&D, whether it is in the strategic industries or electronics industry, strategic, I mean defense and other
Sure.
industries. The feeling is that R&D productivity has to be measured, right? I mean, of course, there are various methods for doing that. But one sure method of doing it is how many patents have been filed.
Yes.
Now, Samsung is a leader in
Sure.
that. Now, the past 1 decade or 2 decades, what is the, I mean, of course, you joined the company in 2011, but what is the sense that you get on the R&D productivity as far as employees are concerned?
No, I think it is growing
It
day
is
by
growing.
day, definitively with the knowledge, with this nurturing, with lot of L&D programs that we have, the software competency, people have to appear inside,
Okay.
also some software tests from time to time. So I think we have various mechanisms. Samsung, believes in learning, continuous
Okay.
learning. Fundamentally, it believes in continuous learning. It values education. If somebody is with PhD or professor, even internally, it's
Okay.
well respected.
Okay.
So that is there, and people understand that you can have quick solutions, but a deeper solution always takes time. It requires different set
Okay.
of knowledge. So that understanding, that recognition is very deep in the organization, and that helps in a very many different
Okay.
ways. And productivity, yeah, it is growing for sure, and patent is there. But internally, the way I see it is solutions, patent, and paper publications. So anything that we do is really needs to get into some product. It can be local product, it can be global product, it can be flagship, it can be low cost phones, doesn't matter. But you invented something, what's its place?
Okay.
Right? So that's one drive that is there. So solution I put first. Then second is obviously your patent, where you have the highest class, second class, third class. And I always trade, if there is a time, do one of the highest class, then 10 of the second class, or 100 of the third class. That's what I tell inside. It's
Okay.
not 1, 2, 3. It's like logarithmic or exponential scale
Yeah.
of 1, 10, 100. And then obviously then you can publish also, you can go network in conferences and publish in some journals if you can. If you have that level of depth of experiments done, then you can also do that.
And there are facilities for that.
There are facilities for that. There are internal best paper competitions.
Okay.
We have the proposals, even one center to other centers. How do you
Right.
work together? How do you propose for next year's new things? So
Right.
those kinds of things are well institutionalized.
So you have a copyright policy that way, very strong copyright policy, because obviously you will, copyright policy not for your company, but your company also seeks copyrights protection, right? Now,
Yes.
my question is, if I am publishing for very strategic reasons, I wait for the solution to be implemented and then I write about it? Or is it that somebody can jump the gun and write?
You can write, but obviously then you protect through the IPR,
Okay.
the patent. At least you have
So
filed.
first you file the patent
Yes.
and then ensure that
The
the
publication
copyright
happens.
track starts working.
Sure. That's
So that
for sure.
the stronger form of IP ensures that copying and other things by others is avoided.
Yeah, what I said about the priorities are solutions, patents, paper, but the sequence in timelines
Okay.
could be patent and then paper, then maybe solutions,
Okay.
depending on when the product is. But obviously, we would love to protect our intellectual capital.
Now, for instance, the three products that you highlighted, the first product, of course, is the Iris application into your iPad. Now, that's a very fundamental innovation. Has it been published, or is it there are no publications on that?
Yeah, we have in
published.
different forms in white paper or in other formats. In this particular case, we do have publications
But
on the
first
core
you-
part,
Okay.
core part of the iris processing or liveness detection.
But that is
We
after
have.
you file the patent and you got it.
Sure.
Right. So I think that
Always.
way you ensure that
Yes.
everything is not spilt over before the
Or
technology
we may
gets
decide
it.
that there is not so much inventive steps that it needs.
Then you go for a
implementing.
publication.
Then you can go for a publication. So you need a clearance, obviously, one way or the other.
Okay, that sounds very good. Now, what is your future vision for the Samsung Research Institute in terms of the future? Of course, you'll be looking for all the three steps, thematic areas, and the iterative process is well known. But if you look at the next 5 years, what is the kind of vision that you have? There are various spheres coming up, AI is coming up, IoT is being linked to blockchains, a lot of things are happening. So what would you consider as the next 5 years your top priority? As far as
I
your
think
institute
if we look
is
into
concerned.
our journey from 11, 12 when we started, every year we have few drivers,
Okay.
which we are changing. I believe in the changes, and you have to bring those changes yourself.
Okay.
So in the beginning, I wanted to have a lot of quantity of submissions.
Okay.
Let people submit because we don't know who has great ideas. Then, as I talked about, there are standards, essential IPR that is there, and standards, communication standards are there. And so we had a lot of standards related patents. Then he said, can we build around standards, non-standard patents? Then we looked into, I don't want to wait for so long. I looked into my process and say, patent idea submissions to filing. Can I reduce this time?
The time, yeah.
So every year there is driver, and then we looked into quality aspect of it.
Okay.
I have lesser ideas, but I have highest quality patents.
Okay.
So these kinds of metrics
Because-
has been there. So that's the past part. Coming to your question of moving into future, so obviously we are looking into open source areas,
Okay.
and then what can be done. So that's a big area. The AI, the IoT, the analytics, that as a company we have embarked on these. I talked about software is a very ingrained component. Samsung is well known for its all the hardware, gadgets, products, but over time we have been able to change.
Okay.
And it's all becoming software driven. We recently launched Bixby, which is an AI engine
Oh, really?
for this. You can talk to the device.
Yeah.
Two people can talk,
Yeah.
and can a device pick it up and then infer
Fixing
to
up
something?
appointments, and I've
Yes,
seen that
yes.
work. I've seen that
So,
work. Yeah.
so these kinds of journey, like anybody else, is an emerging areas, and we would love to have more
Oh,
patents in those areas. So that's the basic approach of it, and then collaborative things, synergy building across different domains.
Okay.
This is what we would
Cross-cutting
like to
kind
know.
of issues.
Sure.
The couple of questions more before I conclude. What is the role of Samsung in Make in India? Do you think you have been, of course, you have done a lot of work, especially on iris technology and all that. So how do you see the linkage with Make in India? And secondly, do you really feel in the last 2 years or 3 years, there have been changes in the patenting process as far as India is concerned? Patenting process in the sense time, examination time, date of priority and the gap between final grant and priority. Do you think any changes have happened? And the Make in India issue? And finally, do you license some of the technologies like other companies do, some of the other companies do?
Okay, let me start with the last one first,
Yeah.
maybe the license. Yeah, globally this is part of the practice. In India we don't do specifically,
Okay.
but once we have a patent portfolio and there are collaborators, partners, then obviously we will share with them, maybe their IPs, our IPs, and we go and build from there. In terms of the patent process changes, even though people say it and there are software algorithm, a lot of people, when I go to different conferences, I see they are very confused. But we have been filing it. I don't see a big difficulty. It's a little paperwork. There is a follow-up, but maybe you need to get the first hang. But once you are there, we are able to do it.
We are able to do it
smoothly.
faster than it used to be.
It used to be, and globally, patenting takes time. So maybe we are there, but India is progressing. PCT,
progresses, okay.
Filing also is possible. So we have to support that process. We also do a lot of training for government employees and other people that are not there outside as a CSR activities, if you may like to call it, so that this culture gets built in India in general. And then first question is on Make in India, right? Make for India. So we Make in India is the factory.
Even Digital India also meant
yes,
that.
I understood that. So from the factory standpoint, we have a very strong presence. Today we are doing 50 million phones per year from our Noida factory. We do all the white goods also between Chennai and Noida. We have recently announced a doubling of the factory capacity, which will become by 2020 maybe 100 million plus per year. We will also export. So this is one part of from the manufacturing side. Coming to your question of what we are doing, I gave other example. Samsung Pay that we launched in India. So these are there. The fridge,
two big. That's
the
a
washing
digital
machine that I talked about.
The digital part.
Digital part of
integrated to manufacturing.
Yeah, we recently did one more interesting thing, which is in a phone. It's a cute little feature. It's called bike mode. So when you are, driving in the bike, everybody does for others, but we realize that these people have a difficulty, and then they have the helmet and they have to still talk and all of these problems.
And then look also at the road.
And the roads and the potholes. So therefore we said, why don't we do a bike mode? Which means your phone has an NFC and you can touch on your helmet, which has the NFC connect, or on the fuel tank, two places, because you may not carry the helmet. So we said, okay, let's provision. But anyway, so the idea is, how do you make people aware? So what happens is, if you get a call, once you put it into this, you are in the bike mode. You get a call, you will not be able to hear. But the person who is calling
understands that
you are in the bike. And then second thing, if he is still desperate, he can dial extra digit and reach you. But you can't take the call. Still you halt.
You halt and take the call and then start driving.
So we tried to utilize all the sensors of the phones and try to create a feature so that people become aware of it. So like that, there are many interesting features.
I think this anticipates the conversation we have been having about even mobile phones going out of the scene. And this will be on the petrol tank and things like that you will be getting. I think it may reach that stage. It's a post-mobile phone stage.
Future, there will be many things happening.
Many interesting things happening.
We should wait for the future. And I think we had a great conversation.
On that note, let me thank you profoundly for coming over.
Thank you very
much.
Thanks for your time. Thank you.